I guess it's just us tonight.
Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to just start with, I was going to start with last week, since we didn't really get to talk. We didn't really get to talk about last week's games. It was an interesting week, to say the least. I'll be completely transparent and just go right ahead and say if I did pick each of the 6 games last week, I would have only gotten 2 right. The only ones I would have gotten right was Rob over Michelle and Brendan over Joe. I mean, that's about it. There were some really big surprises. I think Justine's team scoring 58 points, which I did check. That is an all-time low for her out of the 7 seasons. That was a big surprise. And I would say, well, not really a big surprise for Glenn to lose, in an unlucky fashion by 1 point. But I would say Steve's team scoring 146, and after I picked him to go 2-11 was a big surprise.
Now you see, Mike. All you have to do is look back to last year. I was supposed to be 3-10, and look what happened. Maybe Woj is going to pull. I don't know what he's going to pull, but he might pull something out of his ass to do something in the league.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's. Oh god, my predictions aren't very good. They're just not. It's very hard to do before the season because nobody knows what the hell's going to happen.
Of course.
Fairness, but can't predict injuries like David Johnson going down for Glenn, which changes a lot. Or I don't know, even Allen Robinson blowing out his knee. Those types of things you can't predict. But just a lot of surprises. I thought your team would have done better, James, last week. You just didn't have anybody. You had nothing totally positive going on. No real breakout performances.
No real breakout performances, but I will tell you the good. I thought the wide receivers overall did all right. Benjamin was disappointing, but I don't think he was the ultimate undoing of my team last weekend. 2 things happened that really, put the, final stake in the coffin, if you will. Danny Woodhead going down in the first quarter. He had 6 points in 1 drive, I think, or 2, something like that. So he was off to a good start, unfortunately. And Mike, you did call this in the season preview that, he's injury prone, and sure enough, that happened. And then the other thing, which I think was more of a surprise than anything else, the Texans defense giving me 0 points. So I think a combination of those 2 things is what really did me in ultimately. Benjamin, yeah, it's disappointing, his performance, but it's not like, he doesn't have the star power like some of the other wideouts in this league. And, at least my top 2 guys, Keenan Allen and Brandon Cooks, went double digits for the wideout. So, there was definitely some, downside, the 2 biggies as to what I mentioned. But, the other bright side I thought was Jared Cook, my tight end. I thought that was nice to see him getting double-digit points, because I know he's very, very hit or miss, mostly on the miss than the hit. But, not that this was a hit, but it was a serviceable performance by him, which was encouraging despite my lack of depth at tight end.
Yeah, I will say, and I mentioned this to you and a couple other people, last week was kind of bizarre the way it played out.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was probably one of the worst.
Absolutely.
single week offensive just across the league. I don't remember a week where offenses were that bad in a long time. You can even see how much the defense is dominated. Glenn, Jaguars defense 42, Rams defense 39, Ravens defense 35, Eagles defense 30.
Yep.
It was crazy. There just wasn't other than Kareem Hunt. I don't think any individual player scored 30-plus points last week, which is very rare for a single week.
And that includes quarterbacks, if I'm not mistaken, Mike.
It does. There were no quarterbacks that came close to sniffing 30.
Yeah.
And a lot of the quarterbacks who did well, nobody played because it was Trevor Siemian and Carson Wentz and Jared Goff and bizarre guys. It was just a weird week. I kind of think it's an anomaly. I think we'll see a lot of turnarounds this week, or maybe we're on to we keep talking about scoring keeps going up. Maybe this is a turnaround season. I don't know.
I wouldn't go that far, Mike, because you gotta. Here's why I say that. Not all, but some of the matchups, you had some really tumultuous matchups, such as Green Bay and Seattle. I think anybody was expecting Green Bay offense to light it up against Seattle, but I don't think anybody thought Seattle's defense would do that well either. Another example, it looked like a struggle for the most part offensively for the Dallas and Giants game. I mean, both teams really were pretty good on defense. Obviously, Dallas got the much better end of that deal, and Eli was not. Well, let's put it this way. Eli was being Eli. Let's put it that way.
I don't even blame him for that. That was the one game I did watch, and the Giants' offensive line is bad.
Oh, without a doubt.
Awful.
Without a doubt.
I blame that before any of the skill position guys. I mean, it didn't hurt. It hurt not having Beckham, obviously. But their offensive line is not good.
Right. But you would also... Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think it was a Bobby Hart on the right side. I mean, Dallas isn't very good on the pass rush, and DeMarcus Lawrence was making him look stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
but also, I not to get too far away from what I'm trying to say. Even though the Giants' offense sucked horribly, Dallas's offense, like even if you're exactly. Like, they were kicking, they were getting in field goal range a lot better. Dallas was playing the, field positioning throughout the entire game, which led them to get the field goals they needed. And that was the ultimate end. It's not like Dak Prescott or anybody on the offense, went, off or anything like that. So, I'm just saying, like, week one, it seems like there was a lot of good matchups. And some matchups that were surprising in the way they resulted. I don't think anybody thought the Ravens would shut out the Bengals. Not that the Bengals are amazing, but...
Well, I'm sure we'll discuss about them at some point tonight.
Yeah. I think you're spot on with that.
Yeah. And this is another theory I had. I mean, it is week one. I mean, preseason rust. I guess there's rust here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these guys don't play a line of preseason, and especially with some of the quarterbacks. I mean, a lot of the quarterbacks who we normally look at it and will play well just didn't look good. I just didn't look good. I didn't think Dak played very well for Dallas the other night. Last week, Tom Brady did not look right. He didn't play well. I mean, you can excuse, Aaron Rodgers and such for performances, but the quarterbacking from some of the, well-known guys just wasn't very good.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So we'll see what happens this week. Obviously, the week got off to a very slow start last night with that Houston-Cincinnati, that thrilling game.
What are you talking about, Mike? It was such a barn burner. I wasn't sure which defense was going to score more points.
Well, I mean, you did get 10 points from the Bengals. No, that wasn't you, right? You don't have the
No,
Bengals, right?
I did play the Bengals D over the
Oh, you
Texans,
did.
and that was just
Okay, you did
because.
get 10 points from them.
Yeah, well, it's better than the 0 I got from the Texans the week
Yeah,
before. And that's the only
yeah,
reason why they were on my bench.
yeah.
I was just horrified what I saw week 1.
I, I, I don't know what to think. I mean, as I said, we'll probably get to Cincinnati at some point, but that offense, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Same. All right, jumping ahead, free agent auction. Obviously, early in the season, it's kind of big because you get some, guys who perform well week 1.
Hmm.
I think I got a little overzealous bidding $22 on Buck Allen.
Yeah, I went in at about 15 on Buck Allen. So I was kind of
$12 was here. It
or
says
12,
12
I'm
on the
sorry.
screen. Yeah.
Sorry. I'm on my cell phone right now. But yeah, no, I didn't think like I knew Buck Allen was going to go double digits. I didn't think it would be for 22.
Yeah, you were second in the bidding for him. The only other person that put a bid in for him, actually, other than us two, was Glenn, and he went in at 9.
Ooh, wait, I beat Glenn at something? Whoa.
Yes, you did, but unfortunately, I will say this: I'm a little. I like to buy in. I like to buy in players, at least at running back, who get a lot of carries, and he did get the most carries for Baltimore
He
last
did.
week. And I think the only reason I went in at 22 is because my running back situation is bad right now.
Not
It's
as bad
not
as
good,
mine.
and well, yeah, maybe not, but.
Tell me how you really feel, Mike.
But I mean, I was kind of desperate, so I figured, whatever, I'll just spend $22. I went in a lot lower though with Kerwin Williams, who Woj actually got at $18. A bit of I didn't expect him to bid that high for Kerwin. The Kerwin Williams was really the big bidding war. He wanted at $18. Mo went in at 15. You went in at 9.
Yeah.
18 was, for me, I actually like Buck Allen a lot more than Kerwin Williams. Kerwin Williams is not a very good running back, and Arizona does not have a very good line. And I think people are going to see just how good David Johnson is when they take the field, next week.
And to piggyback off of that, I feel like a lot of people look into who's the starter. That situation right now, I feel like it's going to be 50-50 between him and Ellington, because Ellington's more of a pass catcher out of the back. This guy seems a little more of like a in between tackles runner. So, it's kind of like pick who you want there. Like I can understand why you want to go in on him. It's just, at least with Buck Allen, he's going to be a little bit of a PPR option now that especially now that Woodhead's down.
Yeah, well, that was the other thing. Terrence West doesn't catch passes.
Exactly.
Generally, he doesn't have very good hands. So, I will piggybacking off what you said with Ellington. Brendan was the only one to bid on Ellington. He got him for $5. I actually don't think that's too bad of a move.
No, I totally agree. I think, and especially since this is more of a PPR league, I think Ellington makes a little more sense than Kerwin Williams. Yeah, I see why Williams is worth the shot, but I feel like more of the attention was on the wrong running back, if you know what I mean. Myself included with that.
Everybody kind of, well, and I think a lot of it was everybody kind of, when you hear reports come out, Kerwin Williams is now the number 1 running back. Everybody gravitated to that just based on the depth chart. And that's what drove the bidding up, as opposed to Ellington, which Ellington, I mean, we forget what was it, 3 years ago? He had a really good season.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not a bad player. There's a reason he's still
Yeah.
on the team.
Like there's no doubt either of those running backs have flex appeal in this league. But if I'm gonna take my shot, it would be more with Ellington, just because he's a pass catcher out of the backfield.
Well, then why didn't you bid on him?
Well, I was kind of hoping to get Buck Allen, but
yeah.
I was, but yeah, because I feel like between Ellington and Buck Allen, I think Buck Allen's a little bit more of a certainty. Just because I think he's a little bit younger than Ellington. Ellington, yeah, more proven, a little bit older, but you also I feel like with Baltimore, you have a little bit better of a understanding as how it's going to work out.
Yeah.
With Arizona, it was just, oh, David Johnson this, David Johnson that. Oh, you need to rest David Johnson? Okay, we'll throw these other two guys in. Now it's like, oh crap, our top running back's gone. How is this going to shake out? So I don't even think Arizona knows right now how this is going to shake out for them.
Watch them. I know they signed Chris Johnson's back on the team.
Well,
Watch, he'll end up getting the most carries.
Well, but that's the other thing. I mean, not that I think he would get the most carries, but people need to understand Chris Johnson, he's still all right. He's not an Adrian Peterson. He's not what he was 5 years. Yeah, he's very old, but if he's doing I still feel like if he has 7 to 10 touches a game, he can still do a little something with that. He's not going to be a bell cow running back by any means. Absolutely not. But I can also see this being like a 3-headed backfield.
That's how I think it's going to play out. Yeah.
Because, people, yes, Chris Johnson's old, but you can't disregard him because he still has, some very good skill set. He has a very good skill set, and he has ability still that translates to what Arizona needs. He's not going to be the bell cow, but he can definitely do, some damage and muddy the waters for that backfield in Arizona.
Right. Only other big baiting thing, which I was a little slightly surprised with, only because of, and I know he played well last week, Nelson Aguilar. $19 John got him for. And I get it for John because he's very weak at wide receiver. Oh my God, Nelson Aguilar is not a good wide receiver. That seems like overpaying for a guy who had one good game. He's not that good.
Yeah, I think, but I mean, it's also kind of like with what you did with Buck Allen. You kind of wanted to,
it was a desperation thing.
Yeah.
John needs a wide receiver. That's his only real weakness, and he needed to. And Aguilar played well. Why not?
Yeah.
I was kind of more surprised not only that John bid $19, but Mo actually bid $15.
Yeah.
Mo actually could have spent a lot of her money if she got Kerwin Williams and Nelson Aguilar. She spent $15 on each of them and she couldn't get either one.
Yeah.
So she really missed out. And then, but I mean, for Aguilar, he's not somebody that I felt his price was more down where Michelle and Brendan bid, which was $5.
Yeah.
Fine with.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
I'm sure that was their mentality as well. All right, we're jumping into the games.
Just before you continue, Mike, I'm sorry. One last thing I wanted to note: Glenn Murphy, $3 on Raiders D. Damn you, Glenn!
And they dropped them. He dropped them. He dropped them last night to pick up DeShone Kizer, the quarterback.
So he wasted Glenifer.
It was Glenifer. I'm assuming. Well, the funny thing with that was he wasn't the only one that bid $3, and we talked about Mo losing out a lot. She also bid $3, but Glenn standings, and Glenn got
the waiver priority, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, stupid move on Glenn, but then a smart move on Glenn getting Kizer.
Now, I do believe because he released the Raiders defense last night, they can still be picked up on waivers on Sunday. Wow. You have to bid for them, though.
Yeah, I know.
You do have to bid. You will have to spend money on them. But yeah, I don't get $3 for a defense. I know they're playing the Jets, but
Da Jets.
all right. Now this week's game, we're starting with in the North with Larry against Brendan. Game of the week.
Ooh.
By exactly 3 points last week. Brendan took down Joe. Larry got lucky that John benched Kareem Hunt. Would have gotten killed. But John did not play Hunt, so Larry won by 3 points. This is, and I think Larry knows this too. I don't think Larry's team's that good. He got lucky last week. His running back situation, there's a lot of people. It's interesting. A lot of teams are saying, "Oh, my running back situation isn't good." I just think there's not a lot of good running backs to go around. But in all fairness, his running back situation is not very good. Receivers didn't do much of anything last week either. It's hard to see. He really rode the Steelers' defense to a win last week. They got 29 points. I don't like the way his team matches up. I like Marshawn Lynch against the Jets. Much better day than he did against Tennessee last week. Brown's always kind of a huge, Brown was the only superstar who actually performed those two last week. I'd like Gronkowski against the Saints better than Reed against the Rams. Brendan's actually going all in on Patriots. He's got 3 Patriots in the lineup this week. Patriots if you count the kicker.
Yeah.
So I do give the edge. I actually think ESPN has it right down with Brendan as a 4-point favorite. I give the edge to Brendan. I don't like, even though the defense situation, we saw how big of a difference defenses can make last week with some of the numbers they put up. It's defense against Detroit. So I would not play them against Detroit. Brendan's slow to react to these things sometimes, so we'll see what he does there. What do you think?
I gotta hand it to you. I agree with everything that you said. I think the wideout spot might be a little bit closer than people think.
Yeah, I agree.
The other thing is, and this is just me, I'm not the biggest fan of Mike Gillislee in this matchup with New Orleans because I feel like it's going to be a track meet, on both sides. It's just going to be Tom Brady throwing the ball, doing the short stuff, running backs that are pass catchers, which Gillislee is not. I think it's a great move that he has James White in his lineup. But,
I don't like him playing both running back. I don't like that, especially considering the matchup.
Exactly. For this type of game, and I'll cite back to the Giants and the Saints a couple years back in New Orleans. Like, that was a track meet. Like, it was 52-45. Like, you're not going to need a in-between the tackles running back in this game. Could Gillislee get lucky and fall in for a touchdown? Sure, but I think James White is the safer of the two and a good PPR option. Just looking at his bench real quick. Let me see. His only other running back is what he picked up, Andre Ellington. From a PPR aspect, I think Ellington might be a slightly better move. But, Gillislee is probably the better back, so that's a toss-up for him. But No, I definitely agree with you. I think Brendan's going to get the edge here.
Yeah,
They'll be
Larry.
close though.
At this point, yeah, it's going to be a close game. I think both of these guys, they just barely won last week in tough matchups. Um, just because whoever wins this is going to be 2-0, but I don't think they're going to be a very strong 2-0. We've seen in the past 2-0 doesn't mean really anything. At the end of the day, that sort of early edge you can build in September can vanish in an instant.
Yep.
But we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Next up, the other undefeated battle is my game. I'm going up against Rob. This is a weird matchup, honestly. I'll be completely honest. We had AJ Green play last night, I should say, 11 points. Very ho hum with the Bengals offense in complete free fall. But as I was thinking, Green, honestly, he's putting up wide receiver 2 numbers with the offense completely sputtering, which is pretty funny in a sense because it's just like, hey, if this offense gets turned around, he should be back to his old self, which is reassuring. The thing that makes me nervous as hell is my running back situation just looks ugly right now. I didn't like my running back situation after the draft, and then losing Spencer Ware just completely killed me. And I'm really going all in with Buck Allen, playing him in the flex and hoping he can, the Baltimore throws a lot to him. He becomes the pass catching guy and is able to put up some decent numbers. Crowell and Abdullah both didn't show a hell of a lot last week. And it's got me a little worried, but I also know I'm not going to get as lucky as I did last week with the 58 points against. With all that said, I still, even though Green underperformed last week, I think I still have like a decimal point edge over Rob in the projections. And I'm going to pick me. It sounds very self-serving, only because, Rob, even though, his running backs, looked pretty good last week, his wide receivers didn't do a whole lot. And I'm hoping that's the case again this week, though guys like Michael Crabtree and Michael Thomas have better matchups this week. I'm going to pick me and hope for the best, but it's like a very cautious, if I can win it, pick. What do you think?
What do I think? I think you need to give yourself a little more confidence. So here's my thinking. Look at the matchups, for example. Yeah, I understand your running back situation is not ideal, but a couple red flags with Rob's running backs. LaShawn McCoy, yeah, he's deemed good to go for this Sunday. Is he a top 3, top 4 running back? Yes, absolutely. But, if he's a little nicked up, you could see something happen like Danny Woodhead this past week. Because Danny Woodhead was deemed good to go, and look what happened. And LaShawn McCoy has a lot of wear and tear on him. You also look at Carlos Hyde. Oh, sorry, one last thing with McCoy. Carolina's defense is pretty darn good, so it's going to be a tough matchup. Look at Carlos Hyde at Seattle. That's a tough matchup. Then you also look at simply, he's starting 2 Colts. Moncrief at wideout, Doyle as the tight end against Arizona. And they're going with a different quarterback. I think it's Brissett for this week.
Did they pick it? I don't even think they did.
I'm pretty sure they did because they're like, we might as well take Brissett because what's his face? It didn't do too hot. So
Well, Tolzien's awful. I don't even know how he
Yeah,
still has a job, but that's
but is Brissett, with all due respect to Brissett, is he that much better?
probably not because he's been with the team 2 weeks and he doesn't know
Exactly.
the offense.
That's what I'm saying. Like you have two offensive players there that have a quarterback 2 weeks in the system. Let's be honest. So, for me, and not to mention, like, all right, Corey Davis for Tennessee, that wideout.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Really? Corey
He looked good
Davis.
last week. He looked decent last week. He made a couple
Right.
of pretty good catches. I like him. He looked better than I expected him to look last week in the little bit I saw of him from the Raider game.
Which is good,
So with that
but
said, Jacksonville has some really good cornerbacks. So
yeah,
it's gonna be well, I don't know.
and that's why I'm saying, like, you know, we still don't know exactly what we're getting with Corey Davis. I'm not saying he's not a good player. He definitely is, but he could be a feast or famine guy like Mike Wallace, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like yeah, he had a great game. That's awesome. But also in turn, Kareem Hunt had a monumental first game.
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to be even better than Adrian Peterson for his entire career? I mean, like you don't know what you get until you get a little bit more of a sample size.
Right, right. Mm-hmm.
So, I think I don't want to call it a lock, but I think you should be a little bit more optimistic than what you already are.
I think it's going to be very close, just like the last game we talked about.
Okay.
I do think it's going to be very close. We'll see. We'll see how
Oh,
it
and
plays out.
and by the way, I love Rob's kicker, Young Ho.
He is from Young Ho Koo is from North Jersey, actually.
I thought you were going to say
He's
North Korea for a second. I was going to say, oh
he's
god.
no, he is from South Korea. He is from South Korea,
Okay, I like
but
South
he is also
Koreans. They're awesome.
I can't remember what high school he went to. I actually saw this. He grew up in North Jersey. Went to high school. I played football in North Jersey. He was a kicker.
Oh, he probably Fort Lee area.
I can't remember. I'll have to look it up.
Look it up, but
I'll have to look it up. I
if
cannot
he's South Korean, I'd bank it's in the Fort Lee area.
Okay. Okay. I don't know. I don't know if that's for some reason Ridgewood's sticking out to me, but I might be wrong.
I wouldn't doubt that.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, I was hoping somebody would pick him up, and Rob happened to pick Janikowski as his kicker, which Janikowski apparently broke his back. So, um, that's good for having a New Jersey presence. Our next trophy
Of course.
after him. All right, next up, the of week one, Team Wojciechowski against two girlies, one cup, Michelle, who lost her first game, looking for her first win this week. This matchup, Woj entered the week with less than one advantage. The line was 0. Woj was a 0.9 point favorite, 9/10 of a point. Michelle is now a slight favorite as DeAndre Hopkins only had 14 points last week. Last night he was projected for 17. Not a huge, really. But this matchup is actually weighed out so close by ESPN that it swung the advantage slightly to Michelle after last night's game. A couple of interesting things here. One, we wanted to talk about wide receiver problems. We were talking about John's wide receiver issues. Michelle's got big wide receiver issues with Beckham out. She already lost Julian Edelman for the year in the preseason after the draft. And Beckham, who the hell knows when he's going to play? And because he's out, her wide receivers are Cole Beasley, Tyler Lockett and Chris Hogan. That's not very inspiring. The good news is she seems okay at the other positions. Gurley and Freeman are really good, are pretty solid as a running back duo.
Yeah, and not to mention,
Russell Wilson's going to be better. Has been better than last week too.
Absolutely, and not to mention she's doing 2 tight end sets, Mike.
She is doing 2 tight end sets. The first we saw this week. I think that's the first we've seen of it this year. The first 2 tight end set.
Got to go 2 tight end sets.
Hooper and Walker after Hooper had a big game last week. So you can't fault with her with the situation she's presented. It's just very tough.
She is, but I taught her the strategy of 2 tight ends, Mike.
Did you? Did you?
No. Obviously, I did not. But I think that's a solid move on her part.
Yeah, and this is a tough matchup because you gotta think Steve's team isn't going to quite perform like it did last week. But Golden Tate looked like he did a few years ago last week. Leonard Fournette looked very good against Houston. With that said, there's still a couple question marks. I don't think Steve has a ton of depth. He is rolling with Marquise Lee in the flex, which is an interesting play this week with Robinson out. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, if that's the right move or not. But it's definitely it's an intriguing flex play. It's a hard pick for me because Michelle's wide receivers just don't inspire any confidence for me, but I think you're going to see some more production this week out of both Chris Hogan and Tyler Lockett. So I'm picking Michelle to win her first game this week. I think her wide receivers will bounce back, and if everybody else stays the course, she's going to be in good shape.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. DeAndre Hopkins did his thing, but just looking down the roster or comparing the rosters, quarterback edge to Michelle, running backs edge to Michelle, wideouts edge to Woj, but the key is she has more PPR friendly wideouts. Jordan Matthews is more of a feast or famine type of wideout. He'll go like 3 catches, but they're usually for like 20 plus yards and a touch. So he's very hit or miss. Tight end, I would argue it's a wash. And you never know with the flex, and I feel like that's up in the air right now as well. I think she has the edge at defense slightly, although if Tyrod Taylor does get hot, that's bad news bears for her. But I think, on paper, I would give the nod to Michelle.
I think, and you kind of alluded to this, the big wild card is Marquise Lee, specifically how Jacksonville uses them, how much Blake Bortles targets them.
Well, honestly, and not that I'm an NFL scout or anything, but if you look back at the Houston game, they did not throw the ball that much. They had Blake Bortles as a game manager, and that was even with Allen Robinson in there. I mean, he wasn't taking chances. He was just handing off the ball to Fournette, feeding Fournette, and doing the short stuff to his wideouts. The one thing that I think that Marquise Lee does have a little bit of is a PPR appeal, because if they're just going to do the short stuff and playing it safe, that makes Marquise Lee a little bit more valuable, I think.
They're going to throw the ball more against Tennessee. I will say that. Tennessee's defense is more geared to stopping the run. Anyway, so I think you will see them.
But which I agree with, but let me ask you this: do you really think they're going to let Blake Bortles, leave him out there unshackled and let him throw, deep balls all over the place?
No, they're not going to do that, but they're going to
And
have to
right,
throw the ball.
yeah,
They
but
can't expect Fournette to run crazy on Tennessee.
yeah, but I just don't see. I don't see Blake Bortles going for more than like 220 yards, and I honestly feel like he's going to spread the ball around more, which kind of dips into Marquise Lee. But the thing with Marquise Lee is, depending on the route that he's running, if he's playing in the slot and doing more of a slot thing, that bodes better for him in a PPR aspect. But right now, it just seems like to me it's a little bit more miss than hit with Lee. But I do feel like the potential for him being a PPR type of wideout is there, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
no, I get what you're saying. I do think it's going to work out for what I don't. Well, I shouldn't say that. I just don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I have no idea what they're going to do in that spot.
This
So
is
who
fair.
knows? Next up, we have Mo, who took you down last week, James.
And
I'm sure.
and hey, I'm gonna admit it. I'll be nice, and I'm being serious. Mo beat me, and she deserved it.
Her team actually in a week where offenses did not play well. Her team played well last week.
Yeah. The best
Her team
part
looked good.
the best part was after the 1 o'clock game. She's like, "Dude, I don't know if I'm gonna beat you." And I just looked at Mo in the eyes, and I just said, "Mo, congratulations, you're gonna win." Just because,
Well,
again, that was after knowing Texans defense got me nothing, and Woodhead was out for practically the whole game. I mean,
and both her running backs played late that week,
yeah,
last week. She
that
had a
too.
Sunday night and a Monday night. So,
Yeah, and those
in all
are
fairness, she
arguable.
was going to be trailing. She was going to be coming from behind no matter what.
Yeah, without a
Just the way the
doubt.
game plans worked out.
Yeah,
She's going against Joe, who lost a really tough game against Brendan. His team didn't play awful last week. Um, you know, I think the thing that hurt him was DeMarco Murray didn't do much against Jacksonville. He didn't get a ton of production out of running back last week. Jimmy Graham didn't do much either. He does he? You want to talk about two tight end sets, Joe? I don't know if he did this last week because I really wasn't tuned in. He is going two tight end sets with Brandon Martellus Bennett.
hold on. Can I just say something right now?
Go ahead.
I love how last year everybody's like, "Oh, you're running with two tight ends. Oh my God, your team sucks." And then I hear it from my league manager, "Oh, what are you doing drafting two tight ends in the top 5 picks?" Well, guess what? We just saw our second team, and we're not even done with the week 2 slates playing two tight ends.
In all fairness, other than you, there were two other people that commonly do the two tight end sets prior to this year. It was Brendan, and Joe was the other. Other people that come to mind that do it frequently. So it's not like
All right,
Joe
but
come up with a strategy.
all right. I'm just saying. All I'm saying is, I got a lot of flack from that last year. I don't know, but
I know. Anyway, back to this week. Mo
yes,
enters.
sorry.
He enters with a 1 point edge according to ESPN, with a lot of check marks on her side, and I actually think ESPN's being a little generous toward Joe. And I understand the whole idea. Zeke Elliott has a tough matchup against Denver. I understand that. Melvin Gordon does not have the easiest matchup against Miami this week, but I still think compared to DeMarco Murray and Lamar Miller, she has a very good are a decent advantage at running. I think Miller, he played last night. I believe he finished under his projection. I believe he had 11 points and was projected for 13. So I mean, Joe didn't lose a lot there, but I don't think Murray's getting 12 this week against Jacksonville. You know, wide receivers, Joe's got a bit of an advantage if Adam Thielen plays well again.
Just because you mentioned him, that was the one player I was eyeing. You got to understand that word out of Minnesota right now is Sam Bradford's knee is not looking good. Last I checked, he's questionable to play this weekend because they're that concerned.
I don't even know who they'd be playing otherwise. I don't know who their backup is.
Well, right now it's Case Keenum, who's he's serviceable, but not.
No, not 24 points for Adam Thielen serviceable.
Right. Do I think Thielen can go 10 or 12? Possibly. But, that's a risk that you're taking against a pretty good Pittsburgh defense in Pittsburgh. So, I mean,
it's hard to. I don't know what kind. It depends if Pittsburgh shows up this week. They sleptwalked last week through Cleveland. And they almost lost because of it.
But let's also be honest. For the last almost decade, like the last time they had 10 wins, Cleveland was 2007, 2008, and Derek Anderson was quarterback.
I remember that.
I can totally. They just missed getting a wild card spot. Actually,
they did. I remember.
I can totally understand why they were sleepwalking in Cleveland because there's nothing there that scares them. As long as they do their part, win handily. The problem is I feel like Pittsburgh got complacent last week. I think against a little bit better of a team like Minnesota, they're going to be on par to true Steeler football.
Well, we'll see. A couple of things I'm not sure of, and it goes back to my team too, with Jarvis Landry, who actually apparently his knee swelled up today. Going back to my team, which I'm not thrilled to hear. Devontae Parker, Mo has as her number 2 wideout. I don't know what color is going to do or who he's going to throw to. Everybody's really high on Parker and low on Landry in the preseason. Of course, Miami didn't play last week because of the hurricane, so this is the first we're going to get to see that this week. I don't know how that's going to play out, the Miami passing game situation. And it has me nervous a little bit with Mo this week as well. I do like Cooper Kupp. I liked him in the preseason. I thought Mo reached for him in the draft, but
I love Cooper Kupp.
Him and Goff loves throwing to him. He was throwing to him all preseason. He was slinging it to him all last week.
Let's be honest. Cooper Kupp is Jared Goff's version of Tom Brady's Wes Welker.
Yeah.
Tom Brady's Julian Edelman.
I agree with that.
Eric Decker. Peyton Manning's Eric Decker. It's like Mo, like she reaches a lot of the time, but this one pick she had, she was spot on, I feel like.
Well, it's hard to say. It's only been 1 week, in all fairness, and the Colts were not good last week. But, I think Cooper Kupp's going to be the real deal, and I think it's going to be I thought it was a reach, but it may end up being a steal when all is said and done.
And plus, look at her depth at wideout. T.Y. Hilton's her number 1. She has Tyreek Hill, Devontae Parker. This is her arguably her number 4 wideout. And yeah, she was a little early, but by the end of the season, that could be her number 2, number 3 wideout.
It speaks to how much depth she has at wideout that she can sit T.Y. Hilton.
Well,
right now.
I wouldn't say she has the most depth because
Well, no, but
like right now T.Y. Hilton is nothing without Andrew Luck, and that's sad to say but true. And I think Mo would agree with me. That's why Ty is on her bench. But I feel like Tyreek Hill is a great talent, but he's a hit or miss. Parker, as you alluded to, we got to see it out, but the potential's there. JJ Nelson, it's can Arizona get their offense together? So, there's a lot of question marks with her wideouts. The talent is there, don't get me wrong. But, with some of those teams and matchups, like it's a little sketchy going into this week. Like, I'll even be honest with you. I would argue, I wouldn't say 110%, but I would argue that, I'm sorry, that Joe might have the better wideout set. But then again, I would also argue that's the only thing she or Joe has an advantage on with Mo.
yeah, it is, and that's the problem here. One thing I find interesting: Mo has Cooper Cup going against Joe's Sammy Watkins.
Right.
Interesting, but I agree with you. I think Mo just, if wide receiver doesn't kill her, I think she's going to win big this week. Joe's team. I just don't.
Well, here's the thing. Joe's running backs are going to keep him in it. I think it's going to be a wash at quarterback because Chicago played Atlanta very well last week. They played them very well on defense.
They did.
I just think, I like Cooper Cup over Bennett in the flex. I think both defenses have a shot to be good. I think it's going to be closer than what you think it will be, but I still give the nod to Mo. I think Mo's going to get it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's going to be that close, but we'll see. We'll see. But we both agree on the pick.
All right.
Agreed. Now
I think we've agreed on most picks.
We've agreed on most of them so far. Now we're on to your team. What's up?
You go ahead. I'll be right back. Okay.
All righty.
I'll be right back. Hold on.
Sounds good. This is John and James. Both teams lost last week. John lost a very tough game where he didn't play Kareem Hunt and it killed him. James, you lost considerably. Really didn't get a whole lot of production out of any of the guys and lost by a decent margin to Mo. The line for this week is kind of like the Woj versus Michelle game where the fourth Thursday night game was at 0.9. That has swung to advantage John, actually, because Bengals defense was projected to get 16 for James and only got 10, I believe. This is another one of those sort of for me, honestly, because I've talked about the Kareem Hunt thing. I don't get. We can kind of chip in on that. I don't get Kareem Hunt. I don't get everybody. When a guy goes berserk like he did with 44 points, obviously everybody's going to be talking about him. But he's not going to score 44 points against the Eagles. I'm not saying he's not going to do well, but I actually kind of like ESPN's projection of 13 points for Kareem Hunt. I kind of like it. James, I was mentioning about Kareem Hunt.
Okay.
13-point projection. Is that low, high?
I think it's about right.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I think it's fair
Yeah.
for him. With that said, and we've mentioned your running back situation. It's not pretty, James.
It's
Right
not.
now, it's not pretty. It does not inspire too much confidence at this juncture. With that said, John's wide receiver situation is pretty ugly. Eli didn't look Marshall's direction for almost the entire game last week. Washington's passing game looked like a complete mess. So really, he has Mike Evans and then right now what looks to be a load of crap at wide receiver. However, and this is where you've got to think that it's not an if, but rather a when John makes a trade, because his running back situation is just fantastic right now. With the running backs he has outstanding depth at the running back position, unlike anybody else has in the league.
Mm-hmm.
You have to imagine, I mean, the way his team's structured, John, it's only going to be a matter of time before John makes a move and makes some type of offer to somebody that's going to be too good to resist. Especially with the amount of teams that need running backs.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, getting back to this week, John now has the slight edge, as I said, because of the Bengals defense only getting 10 points last week. I'm gonna pick him because I think Matt Ryan will be able to keep up with Aaron Rodgers this week on the Sunday night game, and I gotta imagine Marshall and Crowder are gonna play better. I'm low as usual on Brandon Cooks. I don't, I'm low on him. Kelvin Benjamin hasn't shown anything. So I don't think, the projection has it close, but I don't like your team this week, James. You need help at running back. That's what I'm thinking.
All right. I'm biased.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say the Lee Corso saying in Not So Fast, My Friend. Okay. Here's why. Aaron Rodgers can do it. I feel like I agree with you, Mike. It's going to be a wash. Running back, I still think you need to give McCaffrey a little bit more credit than he did, simply because he's a PPR running back. Jordan Howard is not quite as much of a PPR running back as McCaffrey, which is what's going to allow me to keep up with one of his two running backs. Not both, just one of the two. Right now, for that second running back, I'll be honest with you. Like, Forte's just there by default. I'm, in all honesty, considering between him, AP, and Chris Thompson. And Chris Thompson, for PPR, he's a viable option. He had just as many carries as he did receptions last week, if not more. And, he can definitely do something, at least in the PPR aspect. Then we get to wideouts. You made it clear, hey, I got a very good wideout core. Tight end, Ertz. I'd be lying to say if I didn't favor him a little bit more than Jared Cook or Zach Miller. But, Jared Cook, he had a decent week last week. And outside of their two big wideouts, who else are they going to throw the ball to? Oakland. So, and then in my flex, I completely dismantled my team right now, but I believe, Kelvin Benjamin, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry, being the dickhead that I am, I immediately erased my team as soon as we got on the podcast, but...
Of course you did, but I had everything set.
You're too good, Mike. Let me tell you. But I think I knock on wood, as I'm knocking on my head right now. I think I'm going to win this. I agree with what you're saying with the quarterback and the running back. I agree with the wideout. I just feel like right now, for good reason, you're looking at the glass as half empty for me.
Mm.
I'm looking at it as half full for me.
All right. Yeah, I don't think we'll see. Again, that's one of those. We'll see what happens. I'm constantly predicting your demise, so we'll see if I'm right this time or not.
You've been doing that for years, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm used to it by now.
In all fairness, though, in all seriousness, 0-2 is nothing to, it's not a good position to be in. Obviously.
Oh, of course not. Of course.
Neither of you guys, I'm sure, wants to drop the 0-2. And we're wrapping up with the surprise 0-1 versus 0-1 game. Justine against Glenn.
Wait. Glenn, 0-1? What?
Glenn is 0-1. It seems as though he had the second most points last week with 145. And it seems as though his bad luck from last year is carried over because he once again played the top scorer in the league. I swear I don't do this on purpose when I make the schedule.
And I love how he's flipping us off right now, that little bastard.
I can't believe, Glenn probably has it, honestly, if Tom Brady played well last week. But at the same time, the Jaguars defense scored 42 points, so they more than made up for Brady's poor play this week.
Can I just say something? I think the only pick that I can criticize with Glenn that he made, I think he went with Tom Brady around too early.
I actually don't agree with you on that. Brady, I think, fell. The reason I say that is because I was very close to taking Brady.
Really?
Okay. Before. Yes. I was between Kelsey and Brady, actually, and went with the tight end.
I just think
Brady did seem a bit high on everybody's chart or everybody's rankings this year, just because people remember what he did in the playoffs. But in fantasy, except for a couple odd years, there's been a couple years where Brady's been fantastic. But there's also been years of fantasy where he's very ordinary. Just, a normal QB1.
Right.
So.
And that's why I know I'm biased. I apologize for being biased. But in turn, like for the quarterback position right now, I feel like it's Aaron Rodgers in a tier on his own because, and granted I lost this past week, but Aaron Rodgers put up 16, 17 points against Seattle's defense.
Mm-hmm.
How many other quarterbacks in the NFL can you safely say right now at this point in time can do that in fantasy? Because Seattle is one of, if not the best defenses in the NFL.
No, I agree with you. Rodgers is in a league by himself.
Right. And I just feel like Tom Brady and Drew Brees is kind of like neck and neck. Because I think Brees was like a round or two later than Brady.
Yeah.
When he went. Like that's all I'm saying. Like I know I'm nitpicking with Glenn right now, but Tom Brady I felt like could have fell around lower and but in terms of the draft, when you feel the time that is right to pick him, you pick him, but I just feel like with what he got out of Tom Brady and the value he could have gotten, Matthew Stafford had a good week last week. Mariota's looking good. I know he's Glenn's high on his Titans. They're like That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying Tom Brady's not worth, a high pick. I'm just saying, like, I feel like he could have waited around and gotten the same value for what Tom Brady is. That's all.
Well, I'm going to get back to this matchup
Yes,
this
sorry.
week. Interesting pick.
Glenn wins.
Obviously, are you? That was quick.
Well, you've been going the entire time, so I just figured I'd switch it up. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask about the Tariq Cohen play, because obviously Glenn lost David Johnson. He's going to have to get creative at running back.
Right.
Running back is, I think, his weak spot, even though he doesn't look great at tight end either. Tariq Cohen, I'm not crazy about. I get the PPR. I get the PPR aspect but I mean, he has some big plays, but it seems like he's not the starting running back. He's not the main running back in Chicago. And that's risky to take when you start a guy who's not the main running back. You're depending on him to really come up with these explosive plays week after week.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm questioning that move.
I'm kind of a little bit surprised that. Well, not quite. All right. So this is what my initial thought was.
Mm-hmm.
Why not give Frank the Tank a shot? Just because he's steady, you're going to get at least 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 points. You know what you're going to get with him. But in turn with Cohen, like with week 1, it's kind of like he can go, 20 points, but he can also go 2 points. Like I guess he's going for potential. He's going for broke, which I get. But the rest of his team is solid.
Yeah, I agree.
Like if I'm Glenn, I'm saying to myself, risk it with Cohen when I got Frank the Tank, who, yes, very old, very worn down, but he's still a steady Eddie. He got 7 points last week. 7.
Le'Veon Bell got 7 points too.
Yeah, but that's my point. Like, you know what you're going to get with Frank Gore. He's suitable as a plug-and play to get like some sort of point total. I feel like he's got the better of the two teams. Why not, take what you can get rather than risk it?
Mm-hmm.
Because my whole thing is with Cohen, if he hits 20 points, great. Glenn wins as he should. Mm-hmm. But if he goes 2 points, then Glenn's looking at another 1 point loss. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it again. It's nitpicking. I get it. But I just feel like Glenn needs to roll with what he knows and just stick with it rather than getting cute. That's just me. And again, I understand Frank.
I agree.
Frank, and again, I know Frank the Tank is old, but even if he's like the supplemental running back, Frank Gore, he's still going to get work. Like he's still going to get 10 to 15 touches a game.
I agree.
Especially with Andrew Luck out, because you need to run the ball.
Right. No, I agree.
I
agree. I will say this much. Going back to what you said, switching over to Justine's team. They're just for starters, Justine's team's going to score more than 58 points this week.
Without a doubt. I mean,
that was kind of like everything. That was probably one of the worst week games that anybody's had in this league in a long time.
Can I honestly tell you? Let me just tell you one thing about her team. Mm-hmm. If I would not start Ajayi, I have a gut feeling he might not do that well in LA, I would give
I
Coleman
don't
a
think.
shot over Ajayi.
No, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. She. I don't think she has much of a choice in starting with the Ajayi play. I think you have
Sure.
an argument in playing Coleman in the flex. Honestly, over say
All right.
Mike Wallace.
You know what? I'll buy that. That's cool. I'll agree with that. Over Hearns, yeah. No, well, without a doubt. I just feel like,
Mhm.
and this is just me being a Tevin Coleman owner last year. Is Coleman going to be like a top 5, top 10 running back? Absolutely not. But does he have top 5, top 10 running back, and he's the number 2 running back in Atlanta? Unfortunately, yeah. Like there's no like, and I've seen him run in college. Like I actually went with Mo to a Rutgers game, and Rutgers was playing Indiana, and Tevin Coleman ran for 220 yards,
Mhm.
but he was outshadowed by Monte Ball, who ran 400 yards for Wisconsin that same
Monte
weekend.
Ball.
But the point, yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is, I love, even last year, I loved Tevin Coleman's upside. I don't see why you wouldn't give him a shot in your lineup. Maybe I'm being way too bold with Jay Ajayi. I heard some negative things through the week about him, being a little nicked up and whatnot. But, I definitely think he deserves to be in the flex at least over Allen Hurns because, if Devontae Freeman goes down, like, there's no doubt in my mind, Tevin Coleman's a top 10 quarterback, or not quarterback, I'm sorry, top 10 running back in fantasy. Like, I feel like that's no doubt on the low end of that, but I feel like he's a 9 or 10 spot.
I think she has to play Ajayi just because but you say he's nicked up. They didn't play. He didn't play last week. I mean, Ajayi really, we haven't seen much of him, and I think until he proves otherwise that he's not going to perform well,
Mm-hmm.
you just go with him.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of her keepers. He had
Yeah.
a pretty good season last year. I do think she should be playing Coleman in the flex. For wide receiver situation, losing Allen Robinson was a hurt.
Yeah.
You know,
But
these are the two
but I,
teams that had the big injury issues, and I think losing Robinson for the season hurt her possibly more than Glenn losing David Johnson.
yeah. But just going back to the flex, you and I both agree Justine should probably have Tevin Coleman in the flex over Allen Hurns because
Yeah,
Coleman is more talented and he has a chance for at least to fall in for a touchdown against Green Bay.
yeah, I agree with that. I do
Okay.
agree with that. Justine is still favored by ESPN here. Tyler Eifert, I think, managed 7 points last week night, so she still has a slight. She's still a slight favorite. ESPN has more check marks for her, but I'm picking Glenn. I think the projections are a little on the lower side, mostly because of his running back situation, but we'll see what happens. I do like Glenn in this matchup, and you're picking Glenn as well, right?
Um, if the lineup stays the way it is, I will go Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
If Justine goes with Tevin Coleman in the flex, I'll go Justine.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. Let's see if she watches this and makes a move.
Yeah.
Again, this is one of those things. I thought both of these teams were going to be very good. It's going to be surprising to see 0-2.
Well, but here's the other caveat I'll say. I feel like either of these teams that if either of these teams do potentially go 0-2, I
Mhm.
feel like both of them have the capability to still, at the very least, get into the wild card.
Yeah, no, I agree. 0-2, as I said, it just puts you in a hole. Just like 2-0 kind of gives you a head start, but it really doesn't get you that far. You really don't
Right.
know where it takes. Honestly, until mid to late October, you really don't know what type of position. That's when positions are solidified.
Right.
At which point you're either really good and you're like Joe was last year, who was so far ahead of the field he could have skated. He skated in, or you're a really bad team whose season's completely over, or you're one of 9 to 10 other teams who's in the hunt.
Or that 3-10 team that wins the whole thing.
No. So you watch. Yeah, I did those projections. Steve's going to win the championship now, isn't he?
I never said
OG's
that.
doing all the right.
I never said that, but
We'll
I
see. We'll
all
see.
all I'm doing is busting your balls, and that's all I'm doing. I'd rather do it
All right.
verbally than every week on changing my lineup and picture and all that other stuff. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to wrap it up. We did want to do a shout out for Brendan, who is not here tonight. But that is because he has a new baby boy.
Brendan, congratulations. I'm very happy for you and your wife on your new addition, Brendan Rex Riley Jr. I know you and I have had a. I'm sorry.
I made the same mistake. Don't worry.
I apologize. But, I just want to make it clear, even though you and I had our differences in our 45-minute conversation last year of me being trade raped and all that other shit, just want to let you know I'm very happy for you guys and your new beginning with your family. And I just want to say I'm happy for you. And I hope both you, your wife, and your new baby boy are healthy and happy.
Yes. Best wishes from the entire league. We've got marriages going on. We've got babies. We're getting old.
Oh, Mike, I just want to let you know I am seeing somebody.
Should we end this before we go into this?
No, it's just my bottle of beer that I have in my hand right now. That's what I'm
Okay.
seeing
This
right
is a
now.
bottle of beer. Okay. Okay. That is it.